What's up, you guys? I am here with a video that I've been planning on doing for a while, and kind of a video series I've been planning on doing. And somebody asked me recently if I'm going to go back and kind of update the pay-per-view collections. I'm not going to do all of them, but I figured maybe the big four I'll do. So yeah, here we go. The Summerslam pay-per-view DVD collection review. And so yeah, 1999 to 2021 now. And I'm going to try to get through these as quick as I can. First up, we have SummerSlam 1999. This was released in 2000. But yeah, we have the out-of-body experience. We of course had Jesse the Body Ventura there. One of my all-time favorites. We do have an insert. Back when we had inserts, and they actually teach you how to use DVDs. So yeah, that's always fun. Yeah, this was like very early on. So you had these great inserts back then. But yeah, we of course had, Test versus Shane McMahon, The Rock versus Mr. Ass, Ivory versus Tori, and then Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Triple H versus Mankind in the triple threat match for the WWF Championship, with of course special guest referee Jesse the Body Ventura. And I don't know where I'm going to put all these. We'll just set them there. Next up, we have 2000. So, I do keep them in these little plastic slips, so I got to take them all out now. So yeah, this is a great cover, great SummerSlam, and a good example of how a DVD should be done. You, of course, have the Rock there, you have the SummerSlam logo. Kind of a little incarnation of the green and blue one. But we, of course, had the first ever TLC match. We had Undertaker versus Kane. We had The Rock versus Triple H versus Kurt Angle. Another triple threat match. And then we have your insert. A lot of nice extras. Yeah, just a packed DVD. Definitely worth getting for the collection. Next up, we have SummerSlam 2001. Very cool cover here with The Rock. We have Finally in the background. Nice little spotlight there. Yeah, I really like the artwork. It actually has Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. So there you go. Very 2001 for sure. You have your disc. No insert, for mine at least. But yeah, you have Booker T versus The Rock for the WCW Championship. Stone Cold versus Kurt Angle. You had the Tag Team Steel Cage match. Jeff Hardy versus RVD in the ladder match for the Hardcore belt. So, very nice. And then you have your great SummerSlam logo. Always been my favorite SummerSlam logo. Continuing on with 2002. My personal favorite SummerSlam. It's between 92 and 2002. So, yeah, we have SummerSlam 2002. One of the greatest WWE pay-per-views of all time, of course. Absolutely. So, we of course had Undertaker versus Test. You had Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. Edge versus Eddie Guerrero. Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio. And a phenomenal opener. And then The Rock versus Brock Lesnar. So, very nice. 2003. You have Sable on the front. I was never really a Sable fan, to be honest with you. Just, no. But yeah, we had Rob Van Dam versus Kane. We had Undertaker versus A-Train. The Fatal 4-Way for the U.S. title. We have Zach Gowen. Or Gowen? Yeah, Gowen. I forget. I forget he even exists half the time. Versus Matt Hardy. I only really remember him for his Brock Lesnar match and his Vince match. And we don't get an insert, but we do get the 2003 box insert, of course. Be remiss if we didn't mention that. And of course we had the Elimination Chamber match. Triple H, Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Goldberg, Shawn Michaels, and Kevin Nash. Sorry, Dolberg. Next up we have 2004. And this I have two different incarnations here. We of course have the Benoit excluded version. So you can see the difference. Even the backs are different. So yeah, I'll show you the regular edition. So, decent cover, decent event. There's nothing to write home about. But, yeah, let the games begin. We, of course, have Chris Benoit versus Randy Orton. John Cena versus Booker T. Matt Hardy and Kane, the Till Death Do Us Part match. And then JBL versus The Undertaker. And, yeah, that was, I think that was also the awkward one where the fan fell through the top of the limo. Next up, we have 2005. We, of course, have the absolutely legendary match between Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan. Just a complete shit show. So bad it's good. You know, Shawn Michaels is just overselling the entire match. He took it as a joke because plans changed, and he didn't like that. So he just oversold his ass the entire time. But it turned out to be a very entertaining match in the process. Who would have thunk it? But we also have Batista versus JBL, Matt Hardy versus Edge. Great rivalry at the time. Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels, like I said. You have the ladder match for the custody of Dominic. Chris Benoit and Orlando Jordan. So yeah, there you go. John Cena and Chris Jericho. Very packed SummerSlam. Next we have 2006. One of my personal favorites. Very underrated SummerSlam. You have Ric Flair versus Mick Foley in the I Quit match. Big Show versus Sabu. I'm not saying this is even that great of a pay-per-view. It's just one that I enjoyed at the time. Very cool disc artwork. You have the insert. You have these cards that came with it. Don't really know why. But yeah, very nice. And yeah, DX versus the McMahons, of course. Hulk Hogan versus Randy Orton. And Hulk Hogan's final WWE match, as of this filming at least. And then Edge versus John Cena, which they had a great rivalry at the time. King Booker and Batista, they were arguing at the time, literally and figuratively. Next we have 2007. This is the Blockbuster edition, so not too much different. You just have the bonus disc. You can see down there. But yeah, you have the Summerslam of Returns. This SummerSlam was highly affected by the Benoit situation. Undertaker was supposed to appear originally. The Jackass crew, they were supposed to face Umaga, but they dropped out last minute. So yeah, this SummerSlam kind of evolved through time. Not necessarily in a good way. But yeah, you have Rey Mysterio versus Chavo, Booker T versus Triple H. Sorry, we have John Cena versus Randy Orton. Just burping in the middle of videos. It's fine. Not even a burp. It was more of like a hiccup. I don't know. I don't usually burp. But yeah, the bonus disc, we have WWE Idol, the Punjabi celebration. So yeah, there you go. And yeah, John Cena versus Randy Orton. This was kind of the start of their pay-per-view series that never seemed to end. But yeah. Next up, we have 2008, the first ever PG pay-per-view for WWE. Of course, not first ever, but of the modern era, the modern age. After the Attitude Era, they went back to PG. But very cool cover here. This was kind of Blockbuster-centric of 2008. So, yeah, very, pretty, I think it's a good pay-per-view. But we had John Cena versus Batista, CM Punk and JBL, Great Khali versus Triple H, the Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker versus Edge. So, yeah, a lot of good things were still happening in WWE in 2008. It's 2009 and above where we start to get concerned. But yeah, away with the SummerSlam S logo that we love. And here we have the stupid stars, I like to call it. But SummerSlam 2009, I enjoyed this pay-per-view for what it was. You had Randy Orton versus John Cena again. Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk in the TLC match. Christian versus William Regal, very disappointing. That could have been a real barn burner, but nope. Speaking of barn burners, we have Great Khali versus Kane. Rey Mysterio and Dolph Ziggler was actually really good. And DX returned to face Legacy. Very famous for that entrance with the tank and all the soldiers were coming out, shooting into the air. So yeah, very interesting things going down there in Los Angeles. And yeah, this was the start of the Los Angeles SummerSlams too. Here we have SummerSlam 2010. We've talked about this SummerSlam enough on this channel. Obviously, you know my opinion of this pay-per-view, so we're just going to drop it. We have Kane versus Rey Mysterio. We have Sheamus versus Randy Orton for the WWE title. See, this is what I'm talking about. This SummerSlam sucks. We have Team WWE versus the Nexus. And you all know I was a Nexus fan at the time. And yeah, we all know how this one ended. So yeah, we had Daniel Bryan making his return though. He had Bret Hart in the ring, which was odd at the time to see still. But yeah, it's overall just a piss poor SummerSlam, unfortunately. And that's kind of what 2010 was. Next we have 2011. We of course had Christian versus Randy Orton, their great rivalry at the time. No holds barred match for the world title. We had Daniel Bryan versus Wade Barrett. CM Punk versus John Cena with Triple H as your special guest referee. And Kevin Nash, of course, came out. And yeah, the ending is unfortunately a clusterfuck. And this followed Money in the Bank. So, yeah, kind of hard to follow that pay-per-view, to be honest. But this pay-per-view is not bad. You know, it did its job, I guess. Next, we have 2012. You have your triple threat match down there. CM Punk versus John Cena versus Big Show. You had Sheamus versus Del Rio. Chris Jericho versus Dolph Ziggler. Very underrated feud of theirs. Kane versus Daniel Bryan. And then, of course, Triple H versus Brock Lesnar. Back when SmackDown was on Sci-Fi or whatever. Oh no, that's a movie. Barricade, lock your doors. There you go. So yeah, 2012, decent show, but nothing compared to what we were going to see with SummerSlam 2013. This was phenomenal. Absolutely everything you needed to be. I do have the Blu-ray version. I don't have the DVD. This is one I picked up at Best Buy years ago. I think this was my first WWE Blu-ray. But we, of course, had Bray Wyatt versus Kane in the... It's an Inferno match. Come on. I don't care. It's not a Ring of Fire bullshit. Dean Ambrose versus RVD was on the kickoff. That goes to show you where our priorities are at. Christian versus Del Rio. CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. And then John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. And we all know where it went from there. Absolutely phenomenal pay-per-view. We all know that. Next we have 2014. Kind of the night that John Cena got his ass handed to him. And kind of a night that ended an era of Super Cena, you know? He never really was that world champion, huge babyface again after this. He held the belt after this, obviously, but not like he did in the PG era or, you know, during his initial runs as WWE champion. This was kind of the end of an era, honestly. So yeah, we had Brock Lesnar versus Cena. You had Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Very interesting disc artwork. I like that. And we, of course, had Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know either. I just don't. Next, we had 2015. This was when we started the 2-disc sets. So we had a 4-hour pay-per-view here. You had John Cena versus Seth Rollins. You had Stephen Amell and Neville versus Stardust and King Barrett. Very interesting time period in WWE. 2015 was. We had the Divas 3-team elimination match. And of course, Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker to continue on from the streak ending. And we, of course, have both discs there. So yeah, very decent pay-per-view. And one of my favorite of the modern SummerSlams, SummerSlam 2016. Actually, it's a good pay-per-view. You had Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. The ending's controversial, but it was a good match. John Cena versus AJ Styles. You had Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. So yeah, there was a lot to like here. And you got the Macho Man card. So yeah, this is when they started doing the cards for every pay-per-view. And like I said, 2-disc set now. So yeah. You know, it's a good SummerSlam. And then next we had 2017, which was another good one. This was kind of the last, like, really good one, honestly. No, we still had some good ones ahead. But yeah, 2017, this was like the last, like, insanely good SummerSlam. The main event was great. You know, we had the Fatal 4-Way. We had Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, and Brock Lesnar. You had John Cena and Baron Corbin. You had Nakamura versus Jinder Mahal. So yeah, it has its ups and downs, but the main event of this show was just great. And this was, you know, past the LA times, you know, 2016, 2015 was when they started to go to Brooklyn, the Barclays Center. So yeah, 2017, like I said, it's kind of the last, like, really good SummerSlam. And then we have 2018, which I actually attended. I was there for that one. I went to TakeOver before that. And, you know, it was SummerSlam, I guess. We had Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler. He, of course, had Dean Ambrose making kind of his final return before leaving the company. Finn Balor and Baron Corbin, the Demon, came back. You had Alexa Bliss versus Ronda Rousey. And then, you know, The Miz versus Daniel Bryan. AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. It's not a bad pay-per-view. It's just a lot of, I don't know, it was kind of a waste of potential. This could have been a much better pay-per-view. And, like, attending it in person, I could definitely see that. And then we, of course, had Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, which I saw twice that year because I was also at WrestleMania in 2018, WrestleMania 34. So next up, we have, hold on, there we go, 2019. This was a good show. It really was. This was kind of a surprise for a lot of people. They brought Pyro back. I remember that was kind of like the big good feeling of the night. You had Trish Stratus and Charlotte putting on a good match. You have Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar in a decent match. Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton. Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon. So, yeah. You know, a lot of decent stuff. I believe this was in Canada, too, if I'm correct. Toronto, I'm guessing. Maybe. But, yeah, what card did we get? Charlotte. So, yeah. And then 2020. Alright. This was during the pandemic, obviously. This is the only pandemic SummerSlam. So, yeah, some pay-per-views got fucked and had to do it twice in the year in the Thunderdome. But, yeah, I remember not being a fan of this pay-per-view at all. Don't like the cover, you know me. I'm not a Bray Wyatt fan. So, yeah, it is what it is, I guess. But you had Braun Strowman and The Fiend Bray Wyatt. You have Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre. You have Dominic versus Seth Rollins. That was kind of the highlight of the evening. And then, of course, Roman Reigns made his big return and turned heel. That was kind of the big start of his run. So, yeah, it doesn't feel like a SummerSlam. It's back to a one-disc set. You know, it's just, it kind of is what it is. It's the sign of the times. 2020 was rough, so. Next we have, and finally, SummerSlam 2021. This was at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. Very good cover here. We, of course, had your main event, John Cena versus Roman Reigns. We had the return of Brock Lesnar. Becky Lynch returned. You know, I'm not a Becky fan, but it's always cool to see Brock Lesnar, even if he was a babyface with a hair tie, which I can't really say much, but there you go. So the card we had was Roman Reigns. So, yeah, overall, this was a decent show, though. Edge and Seth Rollins had a fucking great match. Goldberg and Bobby Lashley had a match. Becky Lynch squashed Bianca Belair, which I liked Bianca Belair. Believe it or not, like, one of the few modern wrestlers I was, like, really getting behind. Yeah, that figures. Yeah, so, yeah. It is what it is, though. turned out to be a decent pay-per-view for coming back with a crowd, stadium crowd to come back. So yeah, it felt like a SummerSlam again. You know, it's not like a SummerSlam 92 feel, but it felt like a SummerSlam. But definitely down below, let me know your thoughts and what your favorite SummerSlam is. You can rank them for all you... go ahead. But hope you guys enjoyed this. For now, peace out.